dictionary definition of music is the art of arranging sounds in time through the elements of melody, harmony, rhythm, and timbre. Low Pass Filter is a show about the nature of this thing we call music, how it functions in people's lives, how it's contextualized by society, and why we find certain music meaningful. This is Low Pass Filter. Hello and welcome to Low Pass Filter. This is a show where we talk about music and what it means in our lives. My name is Mateo Noche, and I'm here with Low Pass Filter co-host Bandon Wayne. Hey, Bandon.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man.
We're in a new set this time.
Yeah.
I thought we were maybe getting a little too comfortable in those chairs. We were just kind of sinking in.
They were more comfortable than they looked, actually.
Yeah. So it's like, sit up straight.
Yeah, this will keep us alert.
That's right. And we even have the community TV ficuses, which they're stars in their own right. They've appeared in many productions.
I think they're going to elevate us to the next level.
I think so. We'll get our SAG cards just like they've got them. So, as the regular viewers of the show know, each month we go back and forth. One of us picks a topic. And this month it's my turn to pick a topic. And this is a topic that I've been kind of circling warily for a while, but I'm really interested in it. And that's why we like what we like. Why we, and I mean the collective we, not you and me necessarily, although that's interesting as well. But why we like the music that we like. I think people don't, or I don't really give it much thought. It's just like, I like that, and I'm not really sure why, but this show is going to be an attempt to get to why we like it.
On some level, I might be the opposite, where I'm constantly thinking about what I like, or why I like what I like, but in some kind of constant background or something, some kind of subconscious, but I think a lot about the music I like.
Well, given what you do for a living, you come in contact with a lot of music and a lot of different people's tastes in music, because
Indeed.
People are always coming to you saying, I'm looking for XYZ. And so you probably need to know about more of this than the ordinary person would.
There's that aspect of it, and a lot of times it's just kind of by nature, people coming into the record store want to get into talks about stuff they like, stuff you like. And so a lot of the hours are passed just by discussing, heartily what we enjoy. And
kind of like this show.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Well, I think some of the more obvious reasons why people like what they like are things like time and place. Mm-hmm. Your age when you heard something.
Indeed.
Who you were with, maybe it was your first girlfriend, or, you're running with your set or whatever it was. And then the associated experiences that went along with the music.
Definitely.
When you heard it.
Yeah, time and place. I think that speaks to the fact that we are all influenced from outside sources in terms of what we like. Some of it is our own, internal compass, and we discover things on our own. But a lot of times, it's being exposed to stuff, being in a situation where you hear it in a certain atmosphere, and then it kind of etches that onto you, and then it becomes part of you.
It does. And then there's how the music makes you feel. Does it make you feel like getting up and dancing, or does it invoke strong emotions, happiness, sadness, nostalgia? Kind of maybe tied into the first item, time and place and all that stuff. But I think there's some music that you just hear, and it either makes you, I don't know if sad is the word, but the nostalgic and maybe wistful.
Yeah, wistful for sure.
Yeah.
And I think as we move through time, get older, nostalgia becomes a stronger part of it sometimes.
Yeah.
Stuff you probably liked at one time, but as time passes, it ties to that time in your life, and maybe the feelings for it even kind of become enriched because you really go to it for that sense of.
Yeah, and we'll get to that. We'll circle back around to that thought, but there's also music that you, at least for me personally, that I can't listen to anymore. that I once loved, and not necessarily that I don't love it anymore. And that it's not good, or I've decided that it's not good. It's just the associations are too painful.
Yeah, certainly. Ending a relationship, that can kill a lot of music for some people.
Right.
A loved one, a pet, things like that could make you never want to hear something again.
Right.
And then there's just that you've heard it too many times.
There's that.
With popular music, stuff that's played on the radio. We all know the examples like Stairway to Heaven and Sweet Home Alabama and things like that.
And we won't get fooled again. And then there are cultural and social reasons why you like it. Maybe it has to do with your heritage, or maybe just all the kids are doing it.
Yeah. Getting into music because of peer pressure.
Yeah.
If you want to hang with us, you got to like this kind of music.
That's right. Yeah. Well, there are actual physical reasons why music, or maybe they don't know why, but that music actually does things to your brain. Mm-hmm. And it centers in your amygdala. I always have trouble with that word, amygdala. And it releases our old pal dopamine.
Yep. Yeah.
It's, when they say the music is dope, this is what they're talking about.
That's what they mean. Yeah.
Directly into your brain, and basically, this is your brain on music.
Indeed. It's an interesting one because it does have that kind of psychoactive property like a drug. We don't think of music literally like a drug. We often say that music is the best drug or something like that. But if we could find a way to only turn to music when we need that kind of lift or distraction or whatever it might be,
Well, there's music for me, at least personally, that I actually have sensations. I don't know if the word chills is exactly right, but you like raises the hackles, sort of.
I don't know the specific science, but I have seen or heard explanations as to why people get goosebumps when they listen to music. Mm-hmm. It triggers that physiological response, and we all know that sensation, hair standing up on the back of your head.
But do we? Do people really, all people react that way, or is it just...
Maybe not all.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I certainly know for myself I've had those moments.
Yeah.
Especially with music that
maybe all people do. I don't know.
I think for me it's generally music that I know very well, that's already kind of imprinted on me, mm-hmm. and you're anticipating a part of a song coming up, and you have had an emotional response to it before. So as that part's happening, you start to get that tingly sensation.
Yeah.
I think perhaps it is true that not all people experience that.
Right. Yeah. And then it's found that sad music releases the hormone prolactin, which apparently induces calm and relaxation.
Indeed. I think that might be found in mother's milk, perhaps.
I think you're right about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So the brain processing music goes something like this. Sound waves are filtered by the ear. Processing begins based on frequency. And the cochlea, the little thing in your ear, encodes the pitch. And the auditory pathways in your ear send that encoded information straight into your auditory cortex. Just like a straight shot.
That's some heavy stuff. You know, no matter how much the science could be clear to my intellect, it still seems miraculous that works. And then on top of that, I would think that auditory cortex, we don't know for certain, but is designed for natural sounds, communication sounds,
fight or flight.
Yes,
you know,
indeed.
You hear something like a tiger or something,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and it's telling your brain you better run.
If you didn't have that part of your brain, you'd be gone. You'd be taken out probably.
Yeah.
But to think that as as long as we've been around and thumped on things and made sounds specifically to create music, maybe before we knew what music was, our brains are primed to receive that and receive something special from it, I guess. So yeah, it's amazing stuff.
I mean, we listen to music all the time, but I don't really think we think about the way it's delivered to our brain.
I do from time to time, and you do as well, because you're into recording engineering and the technology involved in that. But yeah, most of the time it's an unconscious experience. But when you do think about that, I understand how music gets encoded onto a record and then played by a needle and then received by the speakers, and it's still miraculous to me. I understand it.
Yeah. Well, I found this interesting. I sent this article to you. I don't know if you had a chance to check it out, but there was a Cambridge University study of 4,000 students, and they found a distinct correlation between brain types or thinking styles and their musical preferences. And so the study divided people into three groups, and we talked about pigeonholing, and we all want to put people in categories and stuff like this, but it kind of makes a certain amount of sense. And so the first group is called empathizers, or type E, and these are people who focus on thoughts and emotions. So
yeah.
Then there are systemizers, type S, who focus on rules and systems.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, there's a balanced type, or type B, who focus equally on both areas.
Okay. So that would suggest that we are somewhat predisposed to appreciating certain kinds of music.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. We're physically built to like certain types of music.
Yeah. And then some people, I guess you could frame it like right and left brain in a way, kind of equal combination of both, or some level of balance there. And
right. They get a little bit from both E and S columns.
Yeah.
So type E thinkers tend to like low energy songs filled with emotion. That's that whole prolactin thing, including sad songs and genres like soft rock and singers-songwriters.
Mm-hmm.
Then the type S thinkers tend to prefer more intense or structured music, like heavy metal, or even classical music, or avant-garde type music.
Yeah.
And then type B personalities tend to display a broader range of preferences of either of those, from either of those columns.
That makes sense, and I assume that you and I are in the type B category.
I feel like I am. Yeah, I like so many different kinds of things.
Yeah.
And I used to do, for you kids out here who don't know what a mixtape is, back in the day, I used to make mixtapes, and I had a series of mixtapes called Bad Mix.
All right.
And so basically I would put the Circle Jerks next to Dr. Zhivago soundtrack, next to the Beach Boys,
Yeah.
And I don't know, something about it really pleased me to hear things that out of order and incongruent.
I'm with you. I've done the same thing. Yeah. By creating that odd juxtaposition or stark contrast, to my mind, and yours perhaps too, it kind of highlights both in a unique way as to what's great about them. And there's a aspect of unexpectedness. You didn't expect that next thing to come on. For us, that tickles the brain, and you go, oh, wow, okay. Up against that previous song, this has a whole different vibe about it, or, whereas some people might find that jarring and
oh, yeah,
not
absolutely.
Enjoyable.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because there are songs that I put on those mixtapes that I hear that song and then I go, oh, next is, my brain started to anticipate that, after Dr. Zhivago is going to be the Beach Boys or Fear or, something equally weird.
I would enjoy these mixtapes very much.
Okay, well, I still have them.
Nice.
When we do that show about physical media,
you got to get to digitally archiving these, I think.
I've done a little bit of that, but not too much.
You need to preserve these.
Ironically, not to go on a tangent, but ironically, I took the mixtapes and I put them onto CDs.
You did, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only problem is now the CDs are dying, but the mixtapes, they're great. They still work. So anyway,
CDs you lose.
Yeah. Probably good sport jumping off point to take a quick break. But before I do, we got letters. We have somebody sent us a letter, and
this is a momentous day.
To lopez2020@gmail.com. It's kind of a sad thing, but I haven't actually gotten around to checking it until just recently. So, anyway.
Well, like you said, there's only one of you.
There is only one of me, and the world is probably a better place for that. But this letter comes from a gentleman named Neil Kushner. And he said, thank you for your show and your interesting discussion. He likes Bjork too, and he wants to listen to the album that we referenced on a previous show. And he's wondering if you, Bandon, have ever had a chance to work with Blue Mojo programmable active filters for your recording and audio processing needs. Says he's not a salesman, but he's been playing around with it for years, and he's wondering if that's something that you've gotten onto.
Neil, I'm sorry to say I'm not familiar with that at all.
Okay, well, we're going to do some checking now.
Okay, yeah.
Thanks for putting it on our radar. Yeah.
Yeah, I've only worked in very low-tech recording situations, so.
Yeah.
Thank you for writing in, though.
Yeah, thanks, Neil.
Yeah.
And, be sure if you have any questions or topics or anything, be sure and send them along to us, because we're interested in hearing from you.
Yeah, even if you want to tell us to get off the air.
especially because you can't do anything about it. We're here, and it'd be very hard to stop us.
It's public access, man.
That's right. So we're going to take a little bit of a break, and we'll be back in 1 minute. welcome back to Low Pass Filter. Mateo Noche here, Bandon Wayne there. We're talking about why we like the music we like. And
We,
you,
everyone,
the collective we,
yeah.
the big, wide world of we.
We're speaking for all of humanity.
That's right. It might be a bit presumptuous on our part, but anyway, we're presumptuous people. So it occurred to me in researching in this and looking at why people like certain things, fandom is a reason to like things. Now, maybe you already liked it, but I think it kind of intensifies your enjoyment sometimes of music to be a fan, and to join in a group of fans liking music.
Yeah. I don't know if I suppose I've thought of it on some level. So it almost could be a chicken or the egg kind of thing. But perhaps we've gotten into certain musical sounds and styles because the group of friends we wanted to connect with were into it.
Yeah.
And maybe it wasn't necessarily a peer pressure thing, but you're drawn to these people, you're drawn to their attitude, their outlook on life. This is the music they like, and so you're kind of naturally drawn to that, perhaps. Maybe there's more of a cultural participation kind of thing that just seems appealing.
Yeah. Well, if you think about the way fandom has evolved from the very earliest times of recorded music, in the early days of music, and even things like movies, I mean, they didn't often even necessarily put the artist names on it, so you were listening to something, you couldn't find a picture of them. Of course, it was a different world. There was no internet. There's, you'd have to see them in a newspaper or a magazine. Yeah. But as the years went on, then as that industry kind of grew up around it, so there was, fan magazines and stuff like that. And I didn't think of this until just now, but I think the first real group of fans that I can kind of think back on is something like Frank Sinatra.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So Frank Sinatra, I didn't put him on our list, but it just because this just came to me. But back in the 40s, he had a group of people that followed him around that were called Bobby Soxers.
Ah, okay, yeah.
And they would come to see Frank sing and swoon and scream, I think mostly swooning. Maybe the screaming came later with the Beatles, but they would follow Frank around.
Wow.
And in fact, my mom was one of these Bobby Soxers.
Wow.
She had this incredible autograph book, which unfortunately her mother threw away when she moved to New York. But anyway, she would follow Frank Sinatra in various, like Paul Whiteman in various orchestras and bands, Tommy Dorsey and stuff like that around, and get their autographs, and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and he was of an age when there were special radio hours, special programs on the radio that would certainly treat him like a pop star of his era. And then he also crossed over into television during those days, and so then people would get to see, not just hear the voice, but see the person with the voice. And he was a pretty handsome young man, I think, of his time.
So fandom is a subculture, and fans share the empathy and camaraderie of a common interest. They're often very interested in minor details about the artist's life and career. They spend a significant amount of time and energy thinking about this kind of stuff. And then they're fans of genres, so they're like heavy metal fans. Anything that's metal is great. Or there's fans of just particular artists within a genre. And, music is completely subjective. This is the deal, that I, so I think we'll talk about this later about, people who end up not liking certain bands or groups or artists for one reason or another. Usually it's because they got played on the radio too much.
Yeah.
Or they're associated with a socioeconomic group or whatever. But music is a completely subjective thing, and it's really what we like, right? And so when we talk about these fan groups, we're not trying to denigrate them.
Not at all. Not at all.
I just find it interesting that they exist in the first place, and secondly that unusual groups of people like certain things. So my first on the list was BTS, which is a Korean boy band.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Considered K-pop.
K-pop.
Yeah.
And I have I think it's their breakout hit. It's called Mic Drop.
Okay.
I'm not a K-pop fan per se. I got really nothing against it, but it's just a little too slick for me, and it seems a little exploitive of youth. But
it could be. It's certainly geared towards youth, I would think, more than anything. I'm sure there's adults who enjoy it too.
Well, that's the interesting thing, you see, because most of the K-pop fans are in their 30s and 40s.
Really?
Yes. The majority of K-pop fans are in their 30s and 40s, and a large contingent of these fans are middle-aged American women.
Okay. I would not have guessed that.
So the question, I guess, comes up would be why? Why do middle-aged American women relate to this music that's often in another language, that's very youth-oriented, kind of a foreign, maybe not the word, but a different culture, and just a whole scene. In 2019, 10% of Vivid Seats, who was a ticket retailer, their ticket traffic were U.S. women between 35 and 44. So why do a substantial amount of people go crazy over music that's not from their language and not from their culture?
I don't know. I feel like you led off with a real curveball here. I was not expecting. I'm a little jarred.
Ain't I a stinker?
Yeah. Man. Okay, yeah, I assumed it would be predominantly 10 to 14-year-old young people, maybe predominantly girls, but I would assume some young boys enjoy it too. I've seen live performances or television program performances specifically of this group. I had heard about K-pop, didn't know BTS was one of the real big ones until I came across it on YouTube or something and went, oh, okay. I think there's 5 people in the group or something like that. Very stylish, cute, maybe young adult men.
Yes.
So I
it's kind of inexplicable, isn't it?
I mean, I'm sure I could get my brain in gear and start to come up with ideas as to why they work for that demographic, but perhaps you have. Well,
I don't really have. That's why I'm asking you this question. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know part of me thinks this is like, are these women, are they feeling a motherly instincts, for these young men? And I don't know.
Or maybe it's maybe it's an idealization of a young man that you would have been attracted to at that time in your life, or I can't help immediately making the comparison to other what we called boy bands or pop groups of the 80s and 90s.
Sure.
Like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys.
And now, of course, K-pop is just a total sort of emulation of that.
It seems like that to me. It seems like that to me. And so I'm thinking, did those groups of that time have the same demographic of fans?
I don't know.
We called it teeny bop.
Sure.
You know, we called it boy band, boy pop.
Well, I mean, you could go farther back. You could go to like the Partridge Family, or Bobby Sherman, or you know.
Yeah, but we know that it seemed like predominantly teenagers liked that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what makes this appeal to a different demographic than that kind of pop music once did?
Yeah.
Because back in the 60s and 70s, there was also that common phrase, the generation gap.
Yes.
You know, music that our parents liked versus what we liked, and our parents did not relate whatsoever to the stuff that was popular for the youth. So this is an interesting one. You know,
if you out there have an idea.
Yeah, carry on if you're in that demographic and you love it.
I mean, like, again, you like what you like.
I would think if I was thinking about why I would appreciate it, I would think it would be because it sparks some or evokes some feeling that I once had in my life from when I was younger, and it kind of tickles that spot, and I enjoy experiencing that feeling. I don't know.
Okay. I'll do one more, and then we'll jump onto your list.
All right.
So this might be a dangerous area, but Swifties.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Taylor Swift.
Oh, I was thinking of like something that you mop the floor with or something.
Well, it kind of sounds like those are Swiffers. But yeah, sort of the same thing. But anyway, it had Taylor Swift, All Too Well, the 10-minute version.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a longer or shorter version. I'm ignorant, but I know my kids are big Swifties.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't call them Swifties, but they do like Taylor Swift. But they are some of the world's most dedicated fans. They create social media accounts, YouTube videos, and fan art around her. They represent a digital ethnography, right? They are influenced and shaped by digitalization. So there's this huge both on and offline world for the Swifties, but they're closely related worlds. Swifties are said to be transnational, super diverse, digital, and neoliberal.
Wow.
And they have a strict set of rules for this world. No bullying, no bad words, and no imitating Taylor.
Wow. This is interesting stuff. I'm out of the loop on this. I certainly know who Taylor Swift is. And
the other rule is that you must love Taylor unconditionally.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Now I want to parse this out, because I think that last rule and perhaps a couple of the other rules would be created from within the community.
Yes.
Whereas I would be certain that the no bullying rule would be something that she inspires.
Yes.
And
well, she inspires it all, really. But
certainly. Yeah. But I've seen footage of her and how she regards her audience at her shows, and Billie Eilish is similar. Really is important to them to make the experience amongst all of their fans about a loving connection. And
Lady Gaga.
There you go. Yeah. And that, I'm sure that's always existed on some level or with certain artists, but that seems definitely of this time, because as you talked about, there's that online culture, and that's so much of an issue within online culture. And these are modern young people who are trying to kind of evolve away from a culture of bullying people and hazing and being rude, and that's interesting. But that also denotes what a specific culture there is around her and her music.
It's also said that critical posts are deleted. There's no room for criticism of Taylor. Not that there's anything to criticize, but let's just say there were.
Yeah. I mean, That's an interesting topic unto itself. If you were to not allow critique, at least of your art,
Right.
You know, I understand.
I don't
just
think
trying
it's her.
to,
I don't think she's not allowing it. I think
it's the community.
Yeah.
So they have these kind of rules that may or may not be written somewhere. I'm not sure. You just have to kind of learn the.
You learn the ropes. I think, when you become a Swiftie.
Yeah, there's a lot of philosophical stuff you could talk about within that, but on a pure level, the idea of trying to keep it all positive and full of love, nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
Yeah.
So let's jump over to your list.
Man, my list is dated. There's not that much current stuff on my list. I was trying to wrap my head around this concept. Well, we'll start with the group that you suggested, perhaps I field, which is the group known as KISS.
Yes.
And that registered to me as a good place to start thinking about this topic, because KISS is about more than just the music. There are reasons people love KISS beyond or in addition to the music, maybe even preceding the music itself, or some people feel like KISS made completely empty, vapid music. So to love KISS might suggest that it has much more to do with a cultural phenomenon and
Sure.
the visual,
The spectacle
of KISS.
which I actually appreciate. So there's the KISS Army.
The KISS Army, that's exactly right. Yeah, so it's beyond just an abstraction of fans out in the world. It's decidedly coming together to love KISS, worship KISS, be part of a network of people that really, really love this band.
Mm-hmm. Well, the reason I mentioned KISS to you, and because I wanted to talk about Insane Clown Posse.
I saw that on your list, and I thought, well, is Matt secretly a juggalo?
I ain't saying. But this isn't kind of the KISS Army on steroids. Really, they have fans. They're called juggalos. Slipknot has maggots.
Oh, okay.
And so they have juggalos. But
I'm not going to say that I would call them that, but if they want to call themselves
that's
maggots,
what they call themselves,
yeah.
Apparently. They hold an annual event called The Gathering, which at one time, I think it's gotten a little smaller, but at one time they only had 100,000 people.
It was big for a minute, yeah.
They get together and they spray each other with Faygo, which is a soda. Listen to horrorcore.
I hadn't thought about this in a while, but yeah, the Faygo.
They also paint their faces, a la KISS. They wear hatchet gear and do their hair in spider legs. They throw the West Side hand signs, do whoop calls, and have a mostly harmless obsession with murder.
And I'm not in any way trying to disparage the people into this. I didn't relate to it. I was not destined to be in that family. But as you just said, mostly harmless obsession.
Although there has been connected with them a smattering of gang violence.
Okay, interesting.
But incongruently, they also sponsor a number of charities.
Yeah, I was going to say, working in the record store for a long time, I saw the rise in their album sales, and saw fans who particularly loved this group, and they were all kind people. And I've seen YouTube videos, I've seen the Family Gathering events used to have these long promotional commercials that you could see on the internet. You know, it'd be 20, 30-minute like sort of trailers for the upcoming gathering event, and yeah, they were promoting a sense of community and connectedness, and it didn't seem angry or dark or violent or anything. But when Insane Clown Posse first came along and sort of was garnering this kind of cult level interest, as far as I could tell, they were considered kind of a rebellious, revolutionary-minded kind of group. You know,
They're hip-hop horrorcore, I think, would be a good
yeah,
word.
but they were kind of anti-authoritarian, kind of anti-fascist, kind of,
Yeah.
you know. But anyway, yeah, that's a great example. I was going to say, with the way they created that event called The Gathering, it's almost like Kiss meeting the Grateful Dead in a way.
Right.
Like that.
Well, I see. So I don't want to hog this whole thing, but
Oh, feel free.
But the next thing I had on my list was the Grateful Dead, Dark Star,
Certainly.
and it seems that everyone is a Deadhead except me. I'm not. I must be the only person in the world that. Sometimes I feel like I am. I know that's not true, but if you look down the list of people who consider themselves Deadhead, which include people like Bill Clinton and you know, just a crazy amount of people that are into the Grateful Dead, and of course they're no longer a band because Jerry's gone. But at the time, they would have gatherings. People would follow the band from city to city, making and selling burritos and T-shirts and doing the twirly dance. And
I think they sold other things that you could ingest as well.
Yes, I think they might have. But it's kind of like the other side of the Insane Clown Posse thing, where you know it's really like a culture that you immerse yourself in.
Yeah, yeah, it really is, and it's where that line is between you heard the music and you decided, I love this music, therefore I'm going to join this culture, and I've met people who are part of this culture and I want to connect with them, I'm drawn into that, and then the music becomes part of your life that way. I don't know where that line is, but I'm sure people fall on.
It's kind of the same impulse, right? Insane Clown Posse, Grateful Dead. It's just
I find it relatively
diametrically opposed sort of music.
Yeah. I find it relatively similar, the cultural aspect of it, or the reason you would connect with the culture, not from the whatever the values within it are, but just you're drawn to it inexplicably for some reason. Yeah. I'm not a Deadhead either, but I think maybe before I leave this mortal coil, I might become one. I've been working on it for years. I just kind of recently discovered that the sort of later 70s into the 80s Grateful Dead is sounding really good to me right now.
Right. Well, see, this is my problem because I like that better than like the early 70s, you know, meanderings. And
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Out of tune guitar playing.
Hey now, we're
I know, like, I'm inviting trouble.
So we're talking like Shakedown Street to In the Dark.
Terrapin Station. I really love that.
The Terrapin Suite is amazing. So anyway, not to get stuck on the Dead, but yeah, that's one of the best examples I think of what we're talking about here. And feel free to you know, carry on.
Well, we're gonna take another break.
All right.
And then when we come back, I want to get to more stuff on your list. But we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a couple minutes with some more Low Pass Filter. welcome back to Low Pass Filter. We're talking about why we like what we like and why you like what you like. Although we don't know what you like, and that's your own business. We're not going to get up in your grill about it or anything else like that.
We respect it.
We respect you.
Yeah,
That's right. So let's take a look at a couple things on your list and talk about what you.
All right. An interesting one. I'm not sure if you have much familiarity with, but the group Manowar.
I don't know them.
It kind of would fit in the discussion with Kiss and Insane Clown Posse, perhaps, because there's kind of an exaggeration in their image and presentation beyond the music. And their first album is probably close to 40 years old now, and they continue to have an ardent cult fan base. I happen to love this band, at least.
So you're a fan.
I am a fan. Never got into the culture of Manowar. Never been to one of their concerts. But I do know other people who love this group as well, and I know people who can't stand this group.
Right.
Specifically within the heavy metal community. Manowar, on all of their album covers, represented this kind of northern white European Viking type character, very buff.
Game of Thrones-y?
Yeah, before that. And
they were Game of Thrones before there was Game of Thrones.
They definitely were, and kind of before there was even something called Viking metal.
Okay.
And the subject,
of course there is.
Yeah, and the subject matter of their music is basically from within the realm of
the sagas.
The sagas of the Vikings, Viking warriors. But the thing about them is, it's all tongue in cheek.
Okay.
They take the music they make seriously. They enjoy the music they make. But it's clear to me that it's not a joke, but it's tongue in cheek. And one way that you can know that is that the founder of the group, the guitar player Ross the Boss, came from a group called the Dictators.
Oh yes.
And they were also very tongue in cheek.
I've seen the Dictators. Yeah.
There you go. So it would seem to me Ross the Boss liked the idea of this emergent heavy metal style and came up with this concept. The members of the band would dress like kind of like Viking warriors or Conan the Barbarian.
Have horned helmets.
Yeah, maybe even early on it was more about like the Conan the Barbarian kind of thing, and then kind of evolved into
Frank Frazetta.
Yeah, so that their album covers are Frazetta style artwork, representing the band in an exaggerated way. So the
right.
The guys in the band didn't really look like
they weren't that buff.
No. And I don't know too much about this culture, but I know it exists, and to this day there are still people who go to Manowar shows. Ross the Boss left Manowar years ago, so they aren't even all of the original members. But so people love this band. Nowadays you've got men in their 50s and 60s probably that go to their concerts, as well as younger people who've discovered it too. So it's in the Spotify list. Check out Manowar if you're interested.
Okay.
And some people hate them. I have a friend who likes another Viking metal band called Amon Amarth that is much more serious, and this friend of mine hates Manowar. He thinks they're trash. But I love it. I think they're great.
I'm gonna have to explore this a little more. So I threw in Carl Stockhausen.
Interesting. Okay.
So Carl Stockhausen was a pioneer of electronic music. They have this type of music that's called serial composition.
Okay.
And control change. So it's like very mechanical. I think your type E person would be big on this. And I may cut this out, but I'm going to do my imitation of minimalist music. Blink. Get around. Beep, bop, 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 beep.
That's pretty good.
It's kind of like that.
I have quite a few records like that, and that's what they sound like.
Yeah.
And that's why I love them.
Who likes this type of music? That's what I'd like to know.
We do.
Are there fans? Do people like get the T-shirt,
certainly.
the Carl Stockhausen T-shirt, and
I don't know about sporting T-shirts. At least not that you'd pick up at Hot Topic or something like that. There might be some homemade ones. There could be. Maybe there's a website where you can go and buy. Might have some ironic quote on it or something.
I don't know. The music is just so austere, and just like sort of death camp sonatas. They're just like so. They're just. But it's a thing, and they sell records, and people go to concerts, and I'm just trying to picture.
Yeah.
Why? I'm not putting down on it, but I'm just. What it's the attraction, I guess.
So I guess if you went to a concert today of Stockhausen music, it would be a group of musicians in a kind of theater that you might see classical performances or opera or musical plays, something like that. You'd hear people render these compositions and
well,
whatnot.
Steve Reich.
There you go. Yeah.
Still out there. I think he's still out there doing it. Maybe somebody like John Adams. I think he's maybe even would be considered melodic. I think probably by comparison to Stockhausen. But yeah, it's just I just wonder. I looked online to see if there was some sort of community that that formed around this, and either there isn't one or they're all in denial or hiding very well. I'm not.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, we could assume that there's a group of people getting together to discuss almost any topic under the sun. Somewhere there's probably a convention, probably not as big as a Swiftie convention or a Comic-Con or Star Trek convention even, maybe, but there's
somewhere they're gathering.
There's people getting together in honor of Paul Williams somewhere in the world. So there's probably
understand that.
Yeah. So
we're talking about little Paul Williams.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. There's actually a documentary. That
somebody stole my songs.
There is a documentary about that. That continued.
Rainy Days and Mondays is a freaking amazing song.
We've only just begun.
Yeah. There you go.
I love Paul Williams. He's a great songwriter, and he was on the Muppet Show, I think bringing up Stockhausen, that's a great one. There's got to be. I'm sure there's like a Reddit page, Reddit threads. People. Yeah. There's people that come together. They find each other over this kind of stuff, but maybe not as big of a pop culture phenomenon.
Well, yeah. I don't think there is a phenomenon involved. But
and you mentioned the what was it, the Type S?
Yeah, Type S focuses on rules and systems.
Yeah, and so
I could see like Insane Clown Posse or Man of War, that kind of very regimented.
Perhaps, yeah. But so
they don't do the Cookie Monster vocal thing, do they, in Man of War?
No.
Okay,
no.
Thankfully.
It's more of the operatic epic metal kind of.
Got it. Well, let's do one more each, and then we're going to have to call it because I think that as the thing just told us, we're just about out of time.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I put Dave Matthews Band on my list.
That's a good one.
Did that make sense?
That makes a hell of a lot of sense.
It's an artist I never got into, but I respect predominantly for his musicianship and his musicality. He's clearly a great musician and surrounds himself. The people in his band are talented musicians, kind of a higher academic level of musicianship. He was South African, but he has, jazz, funk, rock musicians in his band that are technically proficient. And I don't know what the subculture for Dave Matthews is today, but kind of in the mid '90s to late '90s, maybe into the early 2000s, there was a decided fanship of him. I don't know if they had conventions or had internet groups.
Secret handshakes.
Yeah, possibly secret Dave Matthews handshakes. It probably involved a little leg wiggle too. But my oldest sister, who's 6 years younger than me, he really struck a chord with her, and she still loves him. And I think one of the reasons I thought of Dave Matthews is because not only is there a strong fanship that could be on a cult level. For Dave Matthews, cult sounds a little bit dark or something, but there's also a sense of guilt in the love of his music. People go, I know it's people think it's corny, but I love Dave Matthews. And so I was kind of thinking about how
it could be Hootie and the Blowfish, so there you go.
and that could almost be a parallel, although Hootie was maybe just a little bit more pop and kind of came and went a little quicker than Dave Matthews. I have a friend who loves both, who's
that makes sense.
8 or 9 years younger than me, and that was from his era, coming up in junior high and high school, and so he loves artists like that because it connected with him at a certain time in his life. But he still appreciates the musicality and the sentiment in the music and the emotional content. But yeah, so I kind of suspect that there's kind of a network of Dave Matthews fans. I think they find each other, at least at his concerts.
They probably recognize each other from across the crowded room.
Yeah.
Okay, last one. There's more, but I think we're just about out of time. So let me just throw in one more clinker here. Air Supply.
Wow.
All Out of Love. I have on my list. I hear Air Supply is touring again. Good for them. But this is kind of the soft rock thing.
Yeah.
Which type do we have? Our type E, people who like thoughts and emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And soft rock is a whole thing too, But there is a Air Supply community out there. There's a whole group of people.
How do you know this?
The research department.
You have a card in your wallet that says you're a member.
I'm a secret Air Supply. I'm a secret Air Supply person. But yeah, soft rock, which eventually became adult contemporary music. But it's like this simple melodic songs, big lush productions, kind of emotional lyrics. But it turns out that they are huge in South America.
Wow.
Particularly in Chile, Peru, and Brazil.
Wow.
And their fans are called airheads.
Go figure.
I don't know what that would mean in Spanish.
Not Air Supply heads, but airheads.
The airheads. And there's tons of different social networking related to this band. There's.
I think that's kind of too bad that they had to settle on airheads. I understand that rolls off.
It sounds a little derisive, doesn't it?
Yeah, like to be a fan of this band,
you have to be an airhead.
You can be empty-headed or something.
But I mean, deadhead can be much better, right? Because it means from the neck up, there's not much going on.
I did not ever think of it that way. That's interesting. Do they have more than that one song?
They do, yeah. Yeah, they had a string of hits in the 70s and early 80s.
I guess that figures. I may be aware of other songs by them, but All Out of Love, that's the one that that you hear on the radio.
Well, thanks for watching Low Pass Filter. Be sure and like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and be sure and hit us up with your comments. Hopefully, the comments will be nice to us after some of the people that we've talked about in this show. But Bandit, thanks for being here.
Thank
as
you.
Always.
Thanks for
It's
having
a
me.
great one as always. And we'll see you again next time on Low Pass Filter. Thanks for watching Low Pass Filter. Contact the hosts at lowpassfilter2020@gmail.com. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified about future shows.